From ABC News, I'm Doug Limerick. More allegations against Mike.
BC. Egypt at this time was divided into two large kingdoms. It was Upper Egypt that we are showing you right now, with King Menes, the leader or the king of Upper Egypt. Notice that he is wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. The Nile River descended down into Lower Egypt. Here we have some of the subjects of King Menes praising him. And the Nile River continued to flow down into Lower Egypt, where the people are working their fields, irrigating out of the Nile River there. That's just the way they did the irrigation. The king of Lower Egypt is King Mark. Now notice that King Mark is wearing the crown of Lower Egypt, which is red. And he also has many faithful, loyal subjects. Now these people do have a common culture. They have a common religion. They have common food, clothing, various other things. But they are disunited by their two governments. King Menes, what do you propose to do about this situation of a divided Egypt?
Well, I've been thinking long and hard last night for many hours. And I believe we should take action and have a battle with Lower Egypt so we could be very prosperous and rich and take over their land and have many crops grown, and our country will grow as well.
King Menes appears to be taking a rather violent stand to this division, but his subjects, his loyal subjects, seem to be pleased with his decision. His scribes have been busily writing in hieroglyphics every word that he has been saying. We will now go down to Lower Egypt and see what the reaction is with King Mark in Lower Egypt. He also has a number of loyal, faithful subjects. King Mark, do you know what the king of Upper Egypt is planning?
They're trying to take over our land so they can join the two lands to make a united Egypt.
And what will you do about this?
We will attack them and kill them.
Sounds like strong words here. Let's switch back once again to Upper Egypt and see what is happening in Upper Egypt. It appears as though they have their weapons out. They are getting their weapons, they're sharpening things, getting ready for war.
Men, do not be afraid of them. Just fight as hard as you can and we will come victorious. And we will be the most powerful country in all the world.
Looks like there is going to be a fight.
Onward, oh!
And the fight has begun. A very serious battle has begun here, with much fighting and punching and hitting. There are already several people down. The Nile River sustained some damage there. What has happened to the king? What has happened to the king? It looks as though the king of Upper Egypt is okay. The king of Lower Egypt is down on the ground. Is down. Oh, well, his head just kind of rolled off there, and his crown is being removed by the chief scribe, and the crown is now being taken over to King Menes. And it's being placed on his head along with his other crown. So he now is wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt and the red crown of Lower Egypt. What say you, King Menes?
I say that we were very victorious in this battle today, and we will take over their land, grow crops as they were, and have our own form of writing that will carry on for many years to come. And I would like to have a pyramid built in my honor of being Pharaoh of United Egypt.
And the first Pharaoh of Egypt is born. We now leave this section of ancient Egypt. Egypt. At the court of King Khufu. King Khufu was one of the most powerful of the Egyptian pharaohs. His loyal subjects are fanning him. It's a very, very hot Egyptian day. His mother is present, plus his architect. King Khufu, how are you today, sir?
Not very well.
Well, what seems to be the problem?
I'm going to die.
And what is your fear about death?
That my tomb will be robbed like my father's was.
And what happened when your father's tomb was robbed? Can you think about that?
The mummy was taken.
Let's take a look at what happened. Violent characters broke into the tomb, causing destruction to the tomb itself and to the mummy that was within. Much gold was taken out, and silver. They were a despicable lot. It is certainly true. Look at all the loot they got. This is what the king is afraid will happen. King Khufu is afraid will happen to his tomb. Now, let's go back to the king and his thoughts. King Khufu, so your big fear is that your tomb will be robbed. Your architect is right there. Do you have any questions to ask of your architect?
Yes. What preparations have you made for it?
Well, there's a secret cave back here, and it's buried in your tomb back there, so that when you go and you die, so no one knows where your tomb is, so that way they can't rob it like your father's was. There's a big rock over it, so no one will rob it.
That's pretty good. But how far along are you?
We're pretty far. We're almost done.
Let's now look down, or rather up the Nile River to Upper Egypt to see how the stone was quarried, how the stone was cut. There's a big stone coming up right now. The stone was cut with just stone tools. Stones were floated on ships down the Nile River. Coming down the Nile, many, many stones are going to the pyramid site of the Great Pyramid of King Khufu. And the workers are there. Workers are assembling. Hard slave driver there, keeping the workers working. The The pyramid is being assembled with tremendous care and just great precision. The great tomb of the pharaoh is many hundreds of feet on each side, that yet is less than 6 inches off of being a perfect square. And the final touch has been made to the pyramid, and I think probably just in time, because as soon as the pyramid has been completed, let's go back and see what has happened to the pharaoh. The pharaoh appears to have died. His mother is sad. His architect knows that now the plan of the architect is going to be tested to see whether this pharaoh's tomb will indeed be robbed. We're now going to leave ancient Egypt, this time of pyramids and tombs. The pharaoh is on his throne, surrounded by his beautiful young wives who are fanning him with adoration. The problem is that being a pharaoh was very, very dangerous. Many other people wanted the job as well, particularly family members.
Be gone!
He has dismissed his wives. His sister comes in while he is napping, cruelly strangles him, and the pharaoh falls from his throne. The sister walks off. Doctor arrives and checks out the pharaoh. Is the pharaoh alive or dead? He appears to have died. His sister has killed him so that she can become pharaoh. But what will happen to his body? The priests arrive, place the pharaoh on the stretcher, and take the pharaoh away to the mummification tent. The mummification tent, the pharaoh is going to have his internal organs removed and his body dried and wrapped and placed in the tomb, because the Egyptians believed that you could not have an eternal life unless your body continued to exist. Let's see what the procedure is here. Chief priest, who represents the god Anubis. What is the first procedure, chief priest?
I will pull the brain out through the nose and place it in a little bag or jar.
Okay, and the brain was thought to really be nothing. The brain is just going to be thrown away. Oh, what a disgusting brain the pharaoh had.
No, thank you.
The brain has now been removed. It wasn't a very big brain.
Now we will cut out everything but his heart and be very careful in our removing this.
Now the internal organs are going to be removed from the pharaoh. Oh, the organs are being removed right there. And they are going to be placed in a canopic jar. The organs have now been removed, and the pharaoh's body is ready for the drying process. His body has to be taken out to the desert area. It's been filled with salt, and it will be covered with salt. The family members, what is their reaction? During this entire period of time, salt's very, very noisy. During this entire time, the family is in mourning. They have to stay within their home. The pharaoh, meanwhile, is out on the desert, laying in the sand with some muscle contractions causing the sand to move. He lays there for 70 days, and then the chief priest goes and checks him out. And the other priests go and check him out. His body is going to be taken back to the mummification tent to be cleaned and oiled and wrapped. The Book of the Dead is going to be extensively used in readings. Prayers are said constantly while the wrapping procedure goes on. Bandages are used very, very carefully. Golden amulets are placed at strategic locations within the wrappings until the wrapping procedure is complete and the mummy is completely wrapped. Because this is a pharaoh, he was a very rich man. He has many loyal subjects. The family is going to line up for the procession. They are very, very sad about his passing.
He's all right.
The body is now being taken to the pyramid tomb for the final ceremony. Final ceremony is the opening of the mouth. The dead pharaoh's personal possessions will also be buried with him. Okay, let the final ceremony begin.
I will open his eyes so he can see in his afterlife. I will open his nose so he can breathe in his afterlife. I will open his ears so he can hear in his afterlife.
I think everything's open. And the pharaoh is now being taken into the tomb. And all of his personal possessions are being taken in as well. He didn't have a whole lot of personal possessions in this case. And the tomb is going to be locked up with food and drink inside of the tomb. We are now leaving ancient Egypt and all of these people who are very, very sad. And grave robbers are at the site of the new tomb of King Tutankhamun. These grave robbers look like a thirsty, bloody lot, but they are going to break into the tomb to get all that is within there. They are working with all their might. They swing the mighty door open. They go into the tomb and bring out many gold objects. But the priests arrive, and the priests encounter them. There is a struggle. There is a fight. The grave robbers are stopped. It's believed that everything was recovered thousands of years ago. There's still one grave robber. Oh, they got him too. All the grave robbers are caught and no doubt will be executed. The priests put back all of the gold. The priests then reseal the tomb. Let's go from that site of thousands of years ago to more modern times. It's 1921, and it's England.
Where's all my money going to?
Well, we've used it up digging, but we found this, and we think that it'll lead to many more riches. So if you could just give me 100,000 more pounds, I think we could find a lot more money and gold.
Well, I'll give you that much, but in a year's time. But if you don't find it by then I'll cut off my money supply.
Okay. I warn you, though, that if you want to be a part of this, that it's cursed.
I still want to be a part of it.
Okay.
We'll now go back to ancient Egypt. The diggers are working very, very hard. Howard Carter is looking on, instructing the diggers what to do and where to dig. They have dug in at least a dozen different sites, and time is running out. Money is running out. This is probably the last attempt that they will be able to make. And finally, when they thought that time was gone, something happens. The shovel seemed to have struck a stone step. Then a second step.
Okay, let me go down there.
And a whole flight of stairs was uncovered with a door at the bottom.
Mr. Carter, what do you see?
Some tons of gold. Let's contact Lord Carnarvon.
And Lord Carnarvon, back in England, is contacted and arrives at the grave site.
What is it? What have you found?
We found tons of gold. Let me in. I warn you, it's cursed. Look at it.
And Lord Carnarvon enters the tomb. And I don't know what Lord Carnarvon was doing in there, but Lord Carnarvon came out holding his chest and then falling, collapsing to the ground. And that was it for Lord Carnarvon. Lord Carnarvon died. Was it the curse? Or was it just coincidence? We'll never know. Howard Carter entered the tomb, carefully cataloged and photographed everything within, all of the gold objects. Howard, would you bring out a few of those gold objects so we could take a look at them? Much gold and silver was found within the tomb. Beautiful things like these. So this was the greatest archaeological find of modern times. 1922 is the year. Egypt was the place. We're now leaving. Where a group of young schoolgirls believes that they have had spells cast upon them by evil witches. We'll first take a look at the girls who have gathered here at prayer in order to see what kind of spells this might be. Girls, would you say one of your prayers, please? They just look at the prayer, or they think about the prayer, and they seem to go into uncontrollable laughter. Particularly that one on the end. Now, what we are going to have now is we are going to the courtroom. The judges have gathered in order to hear the testimony. And the testimony will be against some of the citizens of Salem Village that they are witches or warlocks. This is the Chief Justice of the Salem Court, Judge Colby. And Judge Colby, what are we doing today?
First accused Betsy Hobbs, would you please come forward? You are accused of witchcraft. Do you have any proof that you're not a witch?
I'm a very holy woman.
Would you please walk in front of the girls?
The girl's reaction to Betsy Hobbs is very, very extreme. But that doesn't seem to be too much of any kind of evidence. Is there any further evidence against her?
Ronald, please come up.
Ronald is a farmer.
Betsy flew into my window one night and cast many spells upon my bedroom. And my daughter also died recently, and she just came right before, and I believe that she cast a spell upon her.
How can you think such a thing after all I've done for you?
You're an evil woman.
I think it's now time for the judges to confer and to make their decision. Betsy Hobbs, what will happen to her? Is she innocent or is she guilty? How do you say, Judge?
Betsy Hobbs, you are accused of witchcraft, and you will be hung.
We have the hangman here. And Betsy Hobbs is led away to be hung immediately. They had quick justice back then. Anybody else who is accused in Salem Village?
Reverend Dale, would you please come forward?
Reverend Dale is actually a preacher in the church here at Salem Village.
What have I been accused of?
You've been accused of witchcraft.
You have any proof that you are not a witch?
I will say the God's prayer in front of these girls without a flaw.
He is going to pray. The idea is that he will not be able to pray if he is possessed.
You killed your wives.
They only died of sickness.
Kill them anyway.
The reaction of the girls seemed to be very extreme, and he did have 3 wives that mysteriously died.
Reverend Dale, you have been accused of witchcraft. You will be hung.
And we have the hangman coming forward once again to do his dirty task. More accusations to be made on this day.
Dorothy Moore, would you please come forward?
Dorothy Moore is a little old lady. Can't hardly make it up to the front of the courtroom.
Dorothy Moore, you are accused of witchcraft. How do you plead?
Not guilty. I'm a holy woman.
Okay, girls, what is your proof of her being a witch?
She's made me think of evil things. She tempted me. She possessed my mind.
Maybe we should do the Bible test. Take the Bible and walk before the girls. If you can. That's a heavy book, I know. For an old lady. Girls are affected in the extreme by Dorothy. Judges, confer and come up with your decision.
Dorothy Moore, you are accused of being a witch. You'll be hung.
And the hangman comes forward for the 3rd time today to lead off poor old Dorothy Moore to the gallows. People were hung until finally one day a very important official showed up.
What is going on here? I've heard that you've been hanging witches and warlocks. Even my wife has been accused of being a witch.
It's the governor himself.
I will have no more hangings in Salem.
And so the hangings stop and the terror ends. The schoolgirls, we still don't know if they truly were possessed or if they were just pretending. That is the mystery of Salem Village.
Halfway through the
highlights from the action earlier today. He'll preview tomorrow's showdown in Gainesville, Florida State in Florida. Penn State also playing in the Big Ten against Michigan State. And a wonderful story, triumph over tragedy, the Warwick Dunn story, coming up at halftime here on ABC. Oklahoma and Nebraska are deadlocked. 1:18 to go. Gundy, the fullback, could not keep Dwayne Harris down. He got it knocked down, got back up, and made the sack again.
He really got a jump on the snap, too, Brent. He was moving on the